But we don't stop at that. We further look at the question when we see a great opportunity, as we learn in our consulting business, what single great company is there no entrepreneur doing? Or what technology might tip in the next year that we should build out a core competency? And that's what Christopher was referring to, that our AI Institute would actually move in the frontier, building technologies and potential companies that are too early for entrepreneurs to see. And then these companies become our incubated companies. You can call it venture building, if you like. And we come out with approximately one company per year that has had a great history of success and marching towards the unicorn. So that's I think that's our unique approach to leveraging AI to date.
It's staggering. It's staggering. I mean, there's nothing like it. I could say this to the audience, not in China or anywhere else in the world. It really is something. Allow me just two more quick ones if I could, and then we'll get Peggy in.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, I mean, literally just in a couple of sentences, I wonder how you all are thinking about crypto, both the independent vehicles like Bitcoin and so on, but also obviously China and India, major countries are stepping up saying that they're going to, create their own digital currency in relatively short order. Do you have any sort of reaction to it, Kai-Fu?
I am a strong believer in computationally based blockchain technologies that will disrupt many industries once it's overcome some of the bottlenecks we know about. And so that's the first point. Secondly, China currently does not really have a legal basis to do the standard crypto companies that's being done in a few other countries. So we don't engage in the current crypto approach taken by the U.S., for example. The Chinese government's approach to crypto is quite different from the U.S. approach. It's still a very much government fiat currency. So it has a lot of the good features. I think it will be successful, but I don't think it's going to come out being a standard crypto, fully distributed, and no ties to government or corporations. So I think the Chinese government is smart in pushing that direction, but it's significantly different from the U.S. based approach right now.
No. Christopher, if you don't mind, I see 13 more hands raised. Should we get to Peggy?
Let's go. Let's start with Peggy right now. Yep.
Good to see you here.
Hi, Kai-Fu. Hi, May. Great to see you guys again.
Hi, Peggy.
I'm glad that you're finally on Clubhouse. Hi. And May, I'd love to invite you and of course, Kai-Fu to do some regular rooms in our China club. So let me know if I can hook there.
Love that.
Yes, would love that.
Sure.
And I'm still waiting to get my Wild China tour. So hopefully one day I'll be able to go with you to Yunnan or somewhere. Lots of fun.
Coming soon. Get the show.
Yes. Okay.
China will welcome you. No,
so
you're there
Kai-Fu,
now,
I remember.
Right?
I'm sorry.
You're in China right now.
Yeah, I'm in Shanghai. Shanghai, perfect. And it's great because there's more nightclubs, there's more restaurants almost every day, and it's totally safe. I feel like I'm living in two planets though, because China is literally becoming more and more a completely different reality. I feel like.
Yeah.
I know we talk a lot about that, and that's probably a different room because a lot of people want to ask questions to Kai-Fu. So, that literally is a completely different world of how did you use technology? What kind of technologies can bridge the two worlds instead of divide the two worlds? I would love to hear Kai-Fu's answer to that, but I do have a different question, which is based on, what you talked about already about compassion and creativity being the only types of jobs that separates us from AI. And, I just wonder what type of jobs really allow us humans to be more innovative or ingenious than AI, predictive AI. Like what's left that allows us to shine? I don't know if that's a too ambiguous of a question, Kai-Fu.
No, not at all. There's really a lot that AI cannot do. So in terms of directly answering your questions, the ability to invent something worthy of a Nobel Prize, or the ability to come up with a new style of art or music, those really require intricate combination of a lot of the experience that humans have. And more generally, AI's power is in examining billions of data points and figuring out an optimization. People have this, whether you call it intuition, brilliance, or experience, ability to hone in quickly on the one thing that matters. Interesting example is if you look at GPT-3, which is the new natural language AI technology from OpenAI, it can generate very interesting new ideas, but it cannot distinguish what's true and not. So if you ask a question, what would Elon Musk say about Bitcoins? It can generate a great thing, almost do the job of a reporter. But if you ask the question when did Bill Gates work at Apple? It would also generate and fabricate something completely. So that's the kind of thing. It doesn't know facts from fiction. It doesn't know common sense. That's really important. A lot of things that are obvious to us, because obviously you wouldn't do or say that because it's common sense. Those are actually some of the hardest things for AI to get. So there are many, many things that we can do in this area. Hopefully this addresses your question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't program compassion and empathy, as you said. So anything like a playlist, like a music playlist that requires some sort of empathy, right? Humans will still do better than hopefully an AI generated playlist. Do you think that's true?
I'm not sure. I think there are amazing curators whose brilliance may be not matched by AI. But I think if you measure, the thing is, how do you measure something, right? If we measure something as in generate a music list that will get more played minutes throughout the world, because that's consistent with my company's business model, then AI will probably do a better job because it will listen to every single person and target a special list that will maximize the minutes for that person. But from an artistic curator standpoint, this may be a terrible bunch of music that plays more to people's most mundane feelings. So it depends on what you mean by successful playlists. If you mean artistically brilliant, yes, AI cannot do that. If you mean popular, well, AI can always beat people.
So Kai-Fu, in creativity and excellence, tell me about writers. My husband, John Pomfret, is in the room. He's listening to this conversation, I hope.
He's going to be replaced by AI.
That's my worry.
John, how are you?
Right. So for writers who spent their life, they're so good at conveying the emotion that the machines are not able to. Like, where is their room? Where do they go?
Well,
the machines are writing all these, Olympics updates now.
Yeah, so the people are freed from writing the Olympic updates. Those are not the most interesting things, right? Insights, what columnists write about, things that require creativity, deep research, presenting arguments that appear to be contradicting and bringing both sides in. Those things are very hard for AI to do. But AI will do a very good job in reporting quarterly results, sports games, and increasingly more complex things. Again, referring to GPT-3, you can enter a sentence and let it finish the article. And in many cases, it's amazing how good it is, but it's really, on the one hand, not deep enough. On the other hand, it makes mistakes, and it's not clear how to remove those mistakes. So I think it's still going to be probably 10, 15 years before they'll be writing some of the more complex articles. But I think the really deep ones, the ones that win Pulitzer Prize, the ones that require human touch, are the ones that they will never be able to touch. Also, that AI has not been able to write anything that competes with strong fiction. Now, we actually built a system in our AI Institute as a writer's toolkit, so that the writer can write a couple of sentences and AI would say, here are 10 possible next sentences and directions to take the story. And while that generated interesting human AI collaboration, as far as I know, none of the AI writers are using that tool right now. So I think we still have a long way to go. One thing that I think we should worry about is I think a lot of writers became good writers as entry-level reporters, doing mundane jobs and growing. If AI takes all the boring, routine, mundane, entry-level jobs, how would the next generation, David Brooks or whatever, become what they are, because they never get to practice and be mentored and try and train. So that's an issue we have to generally deal with.
That's
May, I think,
interesting
like
I think we ought to try to get some other folks in,
Yes.
if that's right, May. I think, because we're sensitive time.
I
Annie,
agree.
I'm just going to say cultural bridging is the thing that is going to be very, very difficult to replace. So John and you and Kai-Fu and myself were, being able to write from one culture's lens, and then be able to digest, to synthesize what's happening in China for the U.S. That's going to be very, very difficult, I think, for AI to replace. So I think John is safe. Thank you, Kai-Fu. Thank you, May. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Peggy.
Bye, Peggy.
Annie, let's move on to you. Yeah.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you all. So I have a question on the areas, because in China, anything you need to do in alignment with regulations and how that's going to help the country succeed. So what areas of the AI do you see that has the most possibility of succeeding, that is in alignment with the regulation? And what is the current gap of developing AI in China? Because I know that China is looking for talents worldwide and try to learn the best technology, but there's obviously a gap that I'm not aware of. And also for the big tech founders, such as AI tech founders, what are the key elements to succeed in China? Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of AI, promising AI areas in China that would get the greatest government support, I would say industrial applications using robotics is probably the clearest one that I can think of, for the reason that China's biggest economic reliance is still on the fact that China is the world's factory. That's something China cannot lose, otherwise the economy would be in trouble. As much as we all love the high tech, but it's really the manufacturing prowess that gives China's amazing power in economics. So at the same time, it's facing labor cost challenges. Chinese labor cost has gone up 50% in the last 5 years, and countries like Vietnam are able to really produce a lower cost labor, about 50% less. So China's clear path is through automation. And China still has a window of opportunity because of the supply chain advantages and the know-how and the operational excellence. So, Vietnam still cannot build many of the advanced products in China, but they will catch up. So the way by which China will take its current advantages and add on automation to bring down the cost of manufacturing, I think that's something very clear to the government, to the factory owners, to the consumer products, and to us as investors, is something to bet on. So we've been, the single area we've made the most investment in the last 12 months has been in industrial factory automation. And that's in the areas of visual inspection, as the lowest hanging fruit, but also smart arms that can pick up things, smart big machines that can use the combination of sensors and cameras to do manipulation, and also smart movement of smart forklifts and the like that can move things back and forth. And I think it's a tough challenge, but I think we will see momentum in the next few years. And of course, that leads to the labor displacement issue that we talked about earlier. As far as the other questions, I think China is in most need of top-level people, whether it's academic PhDs in AI or people with product management or engineering leadership skills. China is actually very good in producing entry-level AI engineers and product managers now. So I think in terms of overseas return, people are thinking about that, I think if you have a strong experience, it's a great time that you're needed in China in various jobs or to start a company. And also, I would say that the window of opportunity will not be that long because the Chinese talent domestically grows very fast.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Kai. Thank you, Kai. Let me just reset the room for quickly a second because we only have Kai-Fu for a few more minutes. So we will not have a follow-up question. We will just move on to try to get as many questions as we can. And for all of you in the room, thank you for coming. And my name is May, and you see Kai-Fu there, and Christopher is my co-host. Please follow us and stay in communication. If there are further questions, we would love to have Kai-Fu back for a book talk for his next book that's coming out, which he will tell us in a second. Now we move on to Brand.
Yeah, so thank you for having me, Kai-Fu. So I think most of the AI we are talking about is machine learning. So it can do a pretty good job at like predicting things or like pattern recognition. But when it comes to like emotions or empathies, it doesn't like know how to quantify something like that. So my question is, so what's the biggest hurdles or difficulties for like computers to behave like a humans with emotions or things that we can now like quantify very easily? Is that because of the computing powers we have right now, because we don't have things like quantum computing? Or is that because it's really hard for us to really quantify human behavior? So I also agree that it's really hard for AI to advance like the real intelligence like we see in the movies, like a real robot, like a human. You see the Star Wars, and you see a lot of future like movies in the future. But so what's the so my question is, so what do you think the most difficult like things that we can't like achieve right now for like understanding human behaviors?
Okay. Well, first, understanding human behavior and emotion is not that hard. So a computer can actually recognize based on the content of your speech, the tone of your voice, your expressions, and any history about you. On top of that, your micro expressions. It's a pretty scary thing because we have these micro expressions that last less than 1/10 of a second that people don't notice. But with the something about the eyebrow or movement of your facial muscles, but AI can be trained to recognize that. So I think AI is already better than people in emotion recognition, but that's not to be confused with truly understanding emotion or feeling emotion or generating emotion. So when I said AI cannot have compassion, those are the elements that are missing. And the path of getting there is, in my opinion, not very optimistic or bright in the short term, because there's so many things about us that we don't understand, and we don't know how to teach the AI to understand. We don't really know what are the hormones and also other brain activities that makes us excited or happy or sad. And until we understand that better, it's hard to know to build something with that. And something probably you asked for the hardest one. I would say the hardest one is consciousness. There's basically zero knowledge about understanding human consciousness. People don't even agree on what it is. And without consciousness, you can't have intent or desire or a basis of your motivation or knowing that you exist. What does it mean? So I think this becomes almost philosophical, and there's so little understood about human consciousness. So I don't even know where to begin with AI. Now, having said all that, the last point I'll make is that you also mentioned intelligence. Now, with being so far from consciousness and human-like is one thing, but building increasingly intelligent things is something AI can definitely do, right? AI already now understands protein folding better than any human and can do it faster than any traditional methods by orders of magnitude. So I think we're going to continue to see headlines of AI doing things that we currently consider intelligent, hard for AI to do. It will conquer them one by one. And I think our last, bastion of defense will be around creativity, compassion, consciousness. Those are things that I think will be 20 years or beyond.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that question. Shall we move on to Masu?
Yes, this is Masu. Thank you, May, Christopher. I'm a big fan of your work, Kai-Fu, so it's an honor to ask you a question. So my question is about if you have any insights, particularly about edge AI, and then the state of the art in regards to hardware market, specifically about AI chips for drones. So personally, I'm a tech founder. We're working with drones, and I wonder if you have any insights about like the state of the art in China compared to US, for people like me who are still new in the game, of how would any of these choices would help us to grow and kind of find opportunities, but also for the competitive scenarios. So I wonder if you could just, for example, compare NVIDIA with some of like the or other unicorns in US with some of the things that is happening in China. I'm aware of Horizon Robotics, for example, and the amazing work that they do with AI chips. But I wonder if you have any insights about what is going on and what do you think would happen in near future. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, sure. Let me answer generally. I think China's the edge AI plays absolutely to China's strengths, and it's a direction that's we're likely to have to go to. There are a lot of reasons for it. One is that the age of IoT will finally be coming. We'll have sensors everywhere because we can now collect the data, store them economically, and use AI to make sense and to make smart decisions with the data. Previously, IoT and too many sensors are kind of unnecessary, partly because we don't know where to put the data, can't afford to store it, don't know what to do with it, and now we do. And of course, the battery technologies also makes that more practical. So I do envision that there will be a lot more sensors in our homes, work, and I think China is a leader in that space because first, the Shenzhen's ability to manufacture. Second, because the barrier of entry is not that high to build these chips, and thirdly, because I think China will be the best place for deployment. Look at Xiaomi; they've already put sensors and smart Wi-Fi in a lot of home appliances, as an example, and also smart cities. That's going to be a great way to apply sensors to figure out what cars are doing and make autonomous vehicles safer. And there are many such examples. So I think China's poised to lead in the space. The flip side is, and you mentioned NVIDIA. Well, I think NVIDIA's efforts on the edge computing will be challenged by the much lower cost and scenarios in China. However, NVIDIA's core strength and greatest profit come from their big GPUs and the future versions of those. And China currently is significantly behind, despite efforts to fund new companies. But NVIDIA was not built in a day. It's going to take a decade, perhaps, for China to have a chance to have NVIDIA level capabilities. But edge computing is where China can catch up soon and lead, probably not within the next 5 years.
Kai-Fu,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masu. I'm just very conscious of your time commitment. Do you have a hard stop, or we are able to finish the next 4 questions that's on stage? We do have a long list of 20 more.
Let's finish the 4 in about 10 minutes. I can do
Perfect.
that.
Thank you. Then let's move on to, is it Alice?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Hi. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, May and Christopher, and thank you, Kai-Fu, for this amazing Clubhouse. I was actually in one of your earlier, maybe like 4 weeks ago, about your like Ask Me Anything Clubhouse room. So I afterwards read the AI superpower book and was having a lot of thoughts about it. So I guess one of the questions that I was really kind of want your insight is probably because you mentioned that by building those increasingly intelligent things, this is a step that we understand ourselves as human beings. So I guess during this process of you like constantly building AI, what insights do you have for us to maybe like allow you understand us better as human beings?
Okay, sure. I think AI is a very good mirror that reflects the best and worst of us as human beings. I think we see through the I think that as AI comes out, I think human nature is fear. So this wonderful new platform that's equivalent to electricity and internet, most people are saying, wow, will it take us over? And fears of us becoming cyborgs, and then a lot of concerns about legitimate, but not showstopper issues like privacy and others, that I think causes AI to be viewed, more than 50% negatively by people. And I think that's generated by fear and insecurity. That's something we see. We also see greed. And we see that large companies, when they have a weapon like AI that can optimize their profits and user retention, they will use it to the detriment of users, without perhaps not intentionally, but with the pressure of company needing to grow, the stock needing to go higher, the greed is using AI in fair ways that concern us. So I think we are seeing a lot of the challenges. On the other hand, I feel in the beginning of any technology adoption, it's always going to start with such concerns. When electricity first came out, people were concerned about getting electrocuted. When internets were connected to PCs, people were concerned about the viruses. But eventually, I think human nature will prevail. I think the trend we've seen is that it takes time to understand the technology. So it's important to evangelize and explain, and it's important to develop solutions, both regulatory as well as technological, and to have faith that given some period of turbulence, that our human nature tends to the direction of goodness and focus on positive applications, creativity, and also understanding that humans are unique, and our agency and our senses for love are not replicable by AI, are going to eventually allow us to have the confidence to push this forward and develop a symbiotic future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice. Moving on to Caroline.
Yes, thanks for having me. So Kai-Fu, since you kind of talked about blockchain just a moment ago, of course, blockchain and AI are totally different areas, but I'm just kind of curious, in which areas do you think that these two, trending technology can maybe collaborate or integrate and, generate new value and opportunities? So personally, I was thinking maybe the integration can maybe create a more secure data sharing and, marketplace for AI, or even help to resolve some privacy issues that, AI is facing. But just really curious to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there is a fundamental philosophical different underpinning between the two sets of technologies. I think AI tends to work better with more data and wants to have a centralized approach. And blockchain, I think, believes in computational distributed way of computing. And I think both are valid approaches. And I think there are areas where the two can be shared and help each other. For example, one of the big issues about deep fakes, or making sure that the training data is legitimate and real, those are things blockchain can play a part in. And also one way to solve potentially the privacy issue is to use what's called federated learning, which isolates your data to agents that you trust. For example, your own phone or maybe your hospital, and not letting it with some guarantee that it won't get spread out. And that's another way where blockchain can be used to ensure the security. I think that's the example you gave also. And lastly, I believe the smart contracts in blockchain, I think that's a great way to plug in AI. So I do think there will be cross-pollination, even though I also think there are some philosophical differences on why centralized versus decentralized works better.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Caroline. Earth?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm also a big fan of, Kai-Fu Wook's AI Superpower and looking forward to the next ones as well. I just want to have two short questions regarding given the climate change of the world is the mega trends, and EV, electric vehicle, are one of the mega trends of the world. Do you think AI of the Chinese automakers like XPeng or NIO can compete with Tesla from the US? And the other question is that I would like to ask for your thoughts on the US SEC announcement that it will force the US listed foreign firm, including Chinese, to comply with the US audit standards. Based on your experience, that I realized that you worked with Google China before, right? Your Chinese peers like Baidu, the stock price hit hard last night, like more than stock price dip from 300 to 200. What do you think that this Chinese company can survive, or you have maybe the US target the AI, maybe the AI of this Chinese firm is they can compete with US, so they try to find a way to eliminate the Chinese stock or Chinese company. What do you think about will this Chinese stock or companies can survive in this environment? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just brief answers to your questions. I think the Chinese automakers are the typical scrappy internet-trained entrepreneurs. I think Elon Musk was successful for many reasons, one of which is that he brings the internet experience to build a device on the basis of, of software, internet distribution, updates, and treating the car as a vehicle to bring forward the software. So the Chinese companies, I think all three of the Chinese auto companies have the same background. So I think they are formidable competitors. They certainly have a cost advantage over time, and I think they also have a home court advantage in China, and also perhaps to developing worlds. And also Chinese battery technologies is something that hasn't yet been recognized worldwide as potentially world leading as well, with a number of companies in China pushing this forward. So I guess I'm pretty bullish on the Chinese EVs. But just like, the success of Xiaomi and other companies didn't at all invalidate Apple. Apple's still an amazing company. So it seems like if Apple and Xiaomi can both be successful, so can Tesla and these three Chinese EVs. On the question of Chinese companies listed in the U.S. or going abroad, I think the Chinese internet software technology AI companies have a chance in developing countries, but probably will have a harder time reaching the U.S. or European or Japanese market. So that would be the wise market expansion strategy for them when they're ready for that. The capital market, I think, is not a big issue. I think either the U.S. capital market and the government will find a way for the Chinese companies to stay, because that's economically a win-win, or they will basically ask some of them to leave, and there will be a very welcoming open arms in Hong Kong and Shanghai exchange and Shenzhen exchanges. So that's pretty much U.S. decision. And I think in the short term, it would be a lose-lose if they expelled some companies. But in the long term, the Chinese companies are just fine because there are many exchanges that would welcome them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kai-Fu. Last question from Meng Di. And then I actually have a closing question. But go ahead, Meng Di.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So hi, Dr. Kai-Fu. It's nice to see you here again. So I have a question about like AI and its role in creator economy. So as you know, like recently, like creator economy and NFT has been a really hot topic. And I also personally, I work at NVIDIA, and I also heard that you mentioned NVIDIA, and we also have some efforts in the AI in kind of art. We kind of empower some musicians for the composition and also for the artists to kind of assist in their kind of painting generation. For example, in the last GTC, our GPU technology conference, we have a gallery showcase all the art, all those artists that like AI generated, kind of AI assisted generated on like artwork. And I also like I've met some entrepreneurs in kind of like using AI music for therapeutics and education. So I feel like AI also has a big role in the entertainment like part. And also I remember your co-author Chu-Fan Chen also mentioned that he's confident that AI will play an important role in kind of like generating like a novel, like, you know, like those kind of fictional content. So just want to kind of hear your kind of opinion on the AI role in creator economy. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think there are basically two sets of things. One is when we talk about arts, a lot of people buy arts just because as decoration. They don't really have necessarily a true appreciation for art. And I think AI will pretty much take over from the artist in generating such content as decorations or fad trend following, because it's going to be cheaper, more customized, and ability to produce something customized. So I think that will be a big challenge for the artist community. On the other hand, I think the greatest artists and all the artists will begin to build different kinds of art that will use AI, AR. There are a number of brilliant tools that allow artists to draw in a virtual space in ways that they couldn't possibly do with just the traditional tools and palettes. So I think new AI-enhanced artists creating things that have never existed before, just like we're now seeing new architecture that couldn't be done before using new technologies. We will see that in music for sure, in I think paintings, yes, and also writing may be the hardest one, but that I think we'll see that as well. So so I think it's going to be two very bimodal ways in which AI will make an impact in art. In some sense, it's reflecting on all the other things we mentioned, right? It's going to make the best reporters all the more valuable, but it's going to take over jobs of the entry-level reporters, and there's no difference when it comes to art.
Thank you. What a very interesting conversation we've had here. Now, Kai-Fu, thank you so much for taking the time. The last question I have, I think it's only fitting with your book, because you shared towards the end of your book your personal encounters with cancer. I personally found that very touching. You saluted the wonderful women in your life, your mother, your wife, your two daughters, and your reflection on what's important in life in this fast-paced era, right? And you sort of thought about where to spend time and energy. And particularly today, I know many of us here are probably spending too many hours in Clubhouse. What advice do you have for us all as a parting advice to spend our time wisely post-COVID? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think both COVID and AI have taught us what really matters to us, right? The fact that AI can do all the mundane routine tasks, so these aren't the things that matter. And COVID has really put us in environments in which we begin to actually enjoy the company of our families. And because of COVID, I was able to spend a lot more time with my daughters that I couldn't otherwise be possible. And similarly, as a workaholic, prior to understanding the AI-driven future, where what matters is creativity and compassion, I think those are things that I would think about. And I think on the particular issue of job displacement, I would point out that while the next 15 years may be challenging for us with all the disruptions, it will actually be liberating. As can you imagine a world in which we don't have to do anything routine anymore? We can really spend time doing what we love, staying with the people we love, going to see amazing places, and figuring out why it is that we're human. Because AI tells us why we're not the wrong reasons for us to be human. Anything AI can do are probably not the things that makes us humans. And I think that's a great step towards understanding the meaning of life.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Kai-Fu, you must come and travel with me in Wild China. I'll take you to Bali and eat good mushroom if not this summer, next summer. Thank you for taking the time.
Okay.
And thanks everybody being in the audience. And just to remind you, do follow Inside Asia, the little house icon at the top. We will be holding regular chats like this in this club. And make sure you follow Kai-Fu, Christopher, me, and also my colleague Kendra is in there as well. And stay updated on conversations like this. And Kai-Fu, we definitely want to have you back and talk about your next book.
Okay, it's called AI 2041. Google
AI
it.
2041.
Right.
Can we buy that now? Pre-order?
Yes, you can.
All right. Everybody, go read Kai-Fu's book. It's a must-read for China. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, Kai-Fu, and have a nice day, all those in Asia, and enjoy the rest of your evening for those in America.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Christopher. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Christopher, that was great. I apologize. There are many we couldn't get to.
Oh, it was awesome. No, I think it was great. And the questions, the audience was awesome.
Yeah,
I'll hit you up on WhatsApp. Thanks for everything. Great to be with everybody.
Yeah, thank you. For those of you who need to see our names, it's Wild China. We have all the book clubs on a monthly basis, and weekly basis we have Zoom chats and fun events. So make sure you follow. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Good morning.
Yeah, good night. Bye, Kendra. Great job, Joyce, my team. For those of you still in the room, I just want to update everyone. The conversation has come to an end, but I'm keeping the room open for just a few minutes as the etiquette as a hostess to say thank you and join us again. If you have time, follow me, follow my colleague Joyce that's in the group, and you will get updates on interesting conversations with Kai-Fu. We'll do his next book talk soon. Thank you. I saw some of my old friends just join this room right now. The conversation we actually finished, so I will be closing this room shortly. Just as the hostess, I'm waiting to close the room. Thank you so much. Join us next time. Thank you.